When did your flywheel start kicking up, and like, what was the strategy going in? Like, what did you like get into the sort of like the details of how
What kind of work was cut out for you when you started your job at Cage?
Yeah.
It was a pretty interesting time. So to your point, we had kind of started dipping out of retail, and so we were shifting our entire focus over to the D2C side. And as soon as we started focusing there, it started really clicking. And we looked at like, where should we start spending money to get more awareness? And how can we utilize the better margins from digital sales to incorporate that awareness and start to get more eyeballs on our products? And it was a lot of trial and error. And that was both on the D2C and performance marketing side. So, you know, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, like all that stuff to send to your D2C. And then also on the Amazon side, it was, let's change the strategy up. Because before we were doing this blanket strategy of trying to spend money on all of our products. And I'm like, that's not it. Like, especially knowing how expensive the CPCs are there, it was, we need to spend more of our budget in one area and let's focus the spend in so that we can do more damage on this one product, get the flywheel taking off, let that product then get to a place where we can spend less on it and keep maintaining its rank, and then start taking that spend.
Just copy paste it.
Exactly. So it's identify the right keywords that you want to grow for. Like, what are the ones that are going to be the most optimal? Spend heavy into those for a period of time, understanding what time frame you are looking for the ROI on. So depending on your cash, right? Some brands can say, you know what? I don't care if I don't break even for 12 months. So I'm going to spend heavy into acquiring customers.
In the pre-workout category.
In the pre-workout category, for instance, right? So if you know, like, this customer is going to buy from me 3 times in the next 12 months, whatever your contribution margin on those 3 purchases is, you could use that as your customer acquisition cost, right? Like, I'm willing to spend $30 or whatever it is because I know in 12 months I will make that back in profit. And then after that, everything's all gravy, right? So you can reverse engineer that both on Amazon and D2C and a lot of other ways and identify exactly how much money you should be spending to acquire those customers. And the cool thing about Amazon is not only do you have that lifetime value, but it's also stimulating the flywheel, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of strategies you can use. And so depending on the profitability, the cash flow of your company, some people might have more of an appetite for that, where they're like, yeah, I don't need to break even on this for 12 months. But some people might be like, no, I want to break even quick, like 3 months. Or some people might be like, I want first transaction profitability. And depending on
How common is that?
first transaction profitability,
Yeah.
like people wanting it or people getting it?
I'm sure everybody wants it.
There's
But it
one-
sounds like a unicorn kind of a
Well,
situation.
there's one for every category, right?
That could be true, yeah. I would say it's not super common in this day and age.
Yeah.
Like right now, depending on your channel and depending on your margins as well, it can be very difficult, especially with CPCs that are that high. But
Well, yeah.
it really does depend on the product.
CPC being cost per click.
Cost per click, exactly. Which again is not a guaranteed sale, it's just a guaranteed click. And
That's why you
eyeballs
have
on
to
your
have a
product.
really good listing.
A really good listing, exactly. You have
What
to make
makes
sure.
a really good listing?
So in this exact context of what you're talking about, it'd be a conversion focused listing because someone's already clicked there and looking at your product. So from a buyability standpoint, making sure that the content, so most important thing is images, right? Do the images, get the person excited, make them want to buy it. Does it tell them the story that they need to hear in order to want to make that purchase? And that can be a couple of things. It can be explaining what the product is and does, very important. However, not always important if someone's already aware of the category, right? But again, you want to make sure that your product page can be utilized by everybody. So someone that's never heard of this category, ever heard of your product, they will learn about it and then want to buy it. And that also will be effective for people that already know about it. But anyways, I digress. You want to make sure that they know what the product is, what it does, know why this product specifically is the one that they should buy. So you can do comparisons, but again, they have to be generic comparisons. You can look at other people's products and go and look at their reviews and see what people are complaining about and say, this isn't doing any of those things, right? Like you can use competitor information and just make sure that you're solving all the questions that any customer would have. And that's not unique to Amazon, but the way you do it on Amazon is a little bit more unique, right? So you want to focus in on making sure that thumbnails have all of that information. Because in a mobile experience, which the Amazon mobile app is the highest transacting form of way of, buying on Amazon, it's like through their mobile app is where it's at. So
Probably the highest acting form of e-commerce transaction on the planet.
I would have to agree.
yeah. But the cool thing about Amazon, or the unique thing, is their app is where it's at.
Yeah, that's what I use.
We know mobile usage is high, but like when you go and buy from your favorite brand, you're usually probably going on your mobile Safari, right? And going to their D2C site through that. Because most brands don't have apps. And if they do, it's usually not something that you use enough that you need to have that app downloaded on your phone.
Right.
It's becoming more common now, but Amazon's always been that way. Like since they had a mobile app, like that's been the generator of, I think it's like 75% or more of their search queries and revenue is coming through their app. Yeah, absolutely. It's easy. So because of that though, those thumbnails are extremely important because people open the app and the first thing you see is a big old thumbnail. You swipe through them. And if that doesn't have all the information you need, you're probably going to bounce, right? And sometimes you might scroll a little bit, but most people will leave. So your thumbnails are the most important thing from that perspective of conversion, right? Like once someone's landed on your page, your thumbnails are going to be the most important thing. And then after that would be your bullet points, because in the mobile app, bullet points are pretty high on the list of things that people will see and read. And back when I started in Amazon, we used to keyword stuff, right? It was like, oh man, let me put all the keywords in the world into these bullet points. And that was more for an SEO type of a play. So more for discoverability versus buyability. But now if someone's already there, you want to make sure those bullet points, again, tell them the features and benefits of that product and sell them hard on that. And then also, again, make sure that this is why this product is the best product for you in this category. You know, answer all the questions, make sure the customer understands that this is a great value, the best deal, whatever it is. And then after that, you can flow down into the A+ detail content for the mobile experience, because for whatever reason, on desktop, A+ detail is much more prominent, right? It's one of the initial things that you see after the bullet points. But in the web app, or just the app, excuse me, the mobile
scroll
app,
quite a bit down.
you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to
through the
even see that.
details and specs and stuff.
Yeah, that's why.
It's not unless I'm like buying a piece of technology that I'm actually really even going to look much at the product description.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, if the thumbnails have all the relevant info, then I'm good.
Well, and also too, you have to think about the average consumer. The average consumer doesn't really care about the specifics and the details of most things. They don't know what the ingredients really do, and they don't really care. Like when you're getting a pre-workout, you're like, I want to know that this thing's going to give me energy, going to get me good pumps, going to get me jacked and make my workouts better.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like when I'm searching on Amazon, like, you know, I'll look at those first 5 images or 7 or however many it is. And then there's a few like minor details that I'm looking for on a specific thing. Like, does it have these kind of these few details about it in which I'm looking for? And usually I'll find that in that sort of smaller section right under it where it's like in the specs. And then after that, it's straight to reviews.
Yep.
And then I'll scroll down like the first 10 and just like make my own sort of litmus test of, is this person just mad because they're angry people or they're hard to please? Or is this person seem like a fake review or things like that? So like a lot of times when I'm reading reviews, I'll read multiple of them to try and verify like the bullshit test.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
And you'd be surprised that you're actually still probably in the minority to go down and read the reviews.
Really?
Like as humans, we're getting so lazy that instead of reading the reviews, most people just look at the review rating. Like, oh, it's 4.2 stars. Cool. And it has 6,000 reviews, right?
Yeah.
They want to know the quantity and then the average quality of that review. And that's good enough for a lot of people.
Wow.
But to your point, it is important for the specific people that are serious about buying, that are more likely to be very loyal customers over time, to make sure that your reviews do represent
I'll
the
do that
product
for
well.
if I'm buying like screws, I'm like, what do they think about those threads? And then there's like a Ned Flanders who's always like, it's off by like a millimeter. You know what I mean? And they're like bitching about it.
Yeah. And again, you're not the average consumer, right? And so that's why there are those people that are that specific, and it's super important to be dialed in and optimized for those people. Because again, those are going to be probably your more consistent repeat buyers, because they're very serious. They're, wanting to know all the information. So I always tell people the most important thing is making sure you tell the story in a way that is palatable, understandable, and can be quickly grasped. Like clarity is extremely important. And then after that, it's like, let's get into all the details, but that can be further down the flow of the content, because again, there's only a specific person that's going to go through and read every single detail, right?
Yeah.
Most people are just like, okay, cool, this is going to do what I want. It's at the price that I want, which is another very important thing. And it has the, everything I'm looking for. Cool, great, let's do it. Let's test it. If it doesn't work, whatever. But then there's people like Joey who have a huge brain and know everything about all the ingredients. And they're like, okay, I want to see all the ingredients. I want to see everything they're saying about this. I want to get all the details. And that person, you want to make sure you can take care of them as well.
Man, there's just so much about it. Joey, he said you have a huge brain.
Huge, dude.
Over
I'm
there
having a
texting.
side conversation with someone who's using my huge brain for something else.
How dare you?
I don't blame them.
It's exciting.
You said what?
It has to do with my NMN thing,
Okay.
With your what thing?
where I'm going to be doing something with the NBA where we're going to be holding a fundraiser for the
The NBA, like LeBron James?
No.
I know, I'm kidding.
Wouldn't that be cool? The NBA is going to fight the FDA over the legality of an ingredient. No, that would be cool. We should get them to join. But yeah, like Amazon listings are not made for people like me. If I'm going to go find like a supplement on Amazon, I'm going to know the exact chemical name. I'm going to type it in. And I'm going to look at like my dollars per dose, and I'm going to find whoever's got the best bang for my buck, maximum milligrams for every dollar I spend. And it's like, okay, you got it. Your label looks right. Okay, I just want to make sure that you know what you know what you're talking about, and that I know what you know what you're talking about as well. If those things match up, okay, I'll buy your product. But especially on a product like a pre-workout where it's so complex, and it's like I'm doing a cost benefit analysis on each of these ingredients and their dosing and all that per dollar and all that stuff. Granted, like for the most part, caged products are an extremely good value for what you get. Mm-hmm. And that was something you touched on earlier. And when I saw that you guys did the rebrand of the omega-3 from like the old label to the new label, I was like, oh shit, I hope they still have the same omega-3s. And I looked on there, and there's pictures of both the old one and the new one, and I'm like, it's probably the same thing, just in a different bottle. Yeah. That was one of the few times in my life where I left a review on something. It wasn't on Amazon, but I wouldn't feel bad if you guys copy and pasted my review from that fish oil to Amazon, because like it comes from a connoisseur standpoint.
Oh, dude, I printed it and framed it, and it's over my bed right now on my wall.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it touched me.
You're so full of shit.
Not physically. It didn't physically touch me, but it
I've heard that from multiple people at Caged, actually, that it's framed and it's above your bed.